everyone. Babula and I are back with you for another episode of Astrology Now to talk about the upcoming full moon in Leo, which kicks off the next lunar cycle. Now, in our last episode, we unpacked the lessons of Aquarius around innovation and community and rebellion. But now we're moving into the Piscean themes of compassion and creativity and transcendence. So we're shifting gears to dive into the dreamy, intuitive, and deeply spiritual waters of Pisces and entering a cosmic transition that marks a shift from collective vision to emotional connection and from intellectual breakthroughs to soulful integration. So get out your water wings and be ready to float along with us as we delve into the magical, mystical waters of the next lunar cycle and all that it brings. So, Babula, take it away.
Well, what a beautiful introduction. So well expressed. I love that. So take it away. Yes, my goodness. So before we touch on the full moon, which will occur on the 12th of February, just a couple of things, sort of a bit of background before we get to that. On the 4th of February, Venus moved into Aries, and why that's relevant for us is that her movement into Aries out of Pisces in early February is that she'll begin to slow down and begin to set up a retrograde phase, which will kick in on the 2nd of March at 10 degrees of Aries. So she's going to get to 10 degrees. And on March the 2nd, about 3 or so weeks from now, she will turn back, which she does every 20 months. And it'll be a 40-day retrograde phase where she will make this kind of mythical journey into the underworld as she crosses the pathway of the sun, because the sun's coming through, she's going back. They will meet, forming a star point later in March on the 23rd, a Venus star point, which is a very, very important thing in the Venus cycle. And that will be at 2 degrees. And then she'll go back into Pisces. Right, so she and many other planets in this year, but particularly in these first 4 months or so, are doing this extraordinary complex dance. I'm just thinking of a dance form that has many complex moving parts and, moving out of the waters of Pisces, which you describe so beautifully, into the fiery, new visions of Aries, but back again into Pisces and back into Aries and back in. So there's this extraordinary movement and there's such different energies. And Pisces is so of the water. And we can look at that just purely in the sense of elements, water and fire.
Yeah, it's like dipping your toes in and then taking it out, dipping it in and taking it out. Like, wow, I just get that whole image in my mind.
And as you say that, what I saw was, someone like coming out of water and suddenly they're in fire and it's hot, and then it gets too hot and you go back into the water to sizzle, and there's this sizzling
Yeah.
of, the hotness or the heat of Aries cooling down in Pisces. And I think it's like that. We can get hot-headed in Aries,
Yes.
and impulsive and impatient. But it's a sign that gets us moving and gets things going. And it's like all year there's this, let's go. Oh, we get this far and we go, yeah, we're not quite there yet. Let's go back and cool down a bit.
Yes.
Let's chill a bit. And then away we go again. So each of these planets, Mercury and Venus, are both going to come up into this retrograde backwards and forwards. Neptune, a lot of this will happen in March.
Yeah.
Neptune, and later in the year, Saturn, and the North Node has gone back out of Aries into Pisces. So it's a fascinating, what's the word? I was going to say conundrum. It's almost a conundrum,
Well, it's sort of like a dance, really.
It is a dance.
On
Yeah.
a, on a bed of hot coals.
Right. That's right.
And then,
steaming hot cold.
yeah,
That's
and then
right.
dropping back onto the ice rink, it's like,
Yeah, or it's like a sauna. A sauna is steam and water, but it needs heat. And if you've ever been in those old-fashioned saunas, where someone in the sauna room gets another scoop of water and throws it on the hot coals, and suddenly the temperature goes up 10 degrees more.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
yeah, it's a really intriguing thing. So we could even see in the world just a lot more going on around water and
Mm.
fire.
And I was thinking while you were talking too, the time between the two, like I often think I go into a shopping center and on times when the air conditioning is too cold, right? And then
Yeah,
I come out into the warmth and I slowly defrost up to the different temperature. And when it's too hot, then I go back into the air
that's right.
and I slowly cool down. And it's that threshold point, I think, that for me is going to be very interesting with those two, how that, the water and the fire sort of that in between phase.
That's right.
Love those in between states.
That's right. We just want it to be the ideal perfect temperature. But one of the really important and powerful points of this all year and in these next couple of months is at 0 degrees of Aries, like 29 Pisces, 0 Aries, that point is like a 0 point. 0 Aries is often called the world degree. It's the autumn equinox here, the autumn spring equinox. It's a very significant moment, and it's a moment of birth. And Pisces is all about relinquishing and letting go and letting things dissolve and fall away and empty out and release. And me and many others are talking about how they just want to clear out everything. And I've done a big part of that, but there's still more. Every now and then there's some, oh, that can go, that can go.
Mm, mm.
Because then when Aries kicks in, it feels like, okay, now I feel more ready to move into the new and to what's next with all this energy of fire.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, 0 degrees Aries is really highlighted in a huge way this year.
yeah. Well, it's going to be a very interesting time, I think. There's going to be a whole lot of weird stuff happen. There's going to be a whole lot of movement when, all these things change. I'm really keen to see what the fallout's going to be, like I'm
Yeah.
so glad to be alive right now.
I know it's so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. And a lot will happen in March. When we get to that, we'll unpack all that. I wrote it all down, and to see it all listed on a piece of paper for March, I just went, wow.
Yes, yeah. There's a
Yeah.
lot.
And so February isn't as dynamic. It's almost like an opportunity to, well, at times to even rest. Pisces hopefully can give us an opportunity to slow things down, wind things down, rest, and prepare then for, it's like it's like giving birth. And many use this analogy these days. We are giving birth to a new world, a new earth, and 0 degrees of Aries to me is a birthing point. It's a
Yeah.
birth moment.
Mhm.
So yeah, big transitions, big. So, and Venus, Venus in Aries, she is the goddess, and her heart energy in Aries is passionate, it's dynamic, it's alive, it's full of vitality and fun and passion and pleasure, and has a very kind of direct and forthright way of expressing herself,
Mm,
when she's in Aries.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. I'm just wondering how that's going to affect finances. You know me, practical person, getting back to
Yeah.
our resources and all that.
Yeah.
How's that going to affect things?
Well, that's a good point, because Venus is the primary money planet,
Yeah.
and she rules Taurus, and so we might be feeling impulsive
Mm,
around investments or spending, and because Aries is a response to an impulse. With Venus in Aries, we see something and we like and just go and buy it, and
yeah.
later on we might think, why did I buy that thing? It doesn't fit, or I don't even really like it that much anymore. And of course, one more thing before we get to the full moon, Um, Many who look at astrology posts online and so on will know this. We're also now and in this first couple of weeks of February in a Neptune North Node conjunction in Pisces.
Mm,
So Neptune, Poseidon, the ruler of Pisces, it's all about the water, seas, oceans. Um, but it's also about, immersing in these realms of creativity and the mystical and the invisible.
yeah,
There's nothing tangible going on here
yeah.
with this energy. It's all felt, intuited.
It's sort of like, and you're trying to find clarity through all that too, it's
Yeah,
hard to see things clearly through a dirty windscreen, for example,
yeah,
yeah, while it's raining. So so there could be some confusion as well, but
yeah,
also I think when you don't have your vision, like anyone who's had some vision loss, like I've had in the past, your other senses kick in, your intuition gets
yeah.
all those things, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But yeah, the downside, of course, is that of this very strong Neptune energy is that there can be a lot of deception and veils of illusion, what's real, what's not real
Yeah,
going on as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so having to feel our way through all of this. Meanwhile, Venus is over here going, well, come on, let's go. I'm full of vip and vim and vigor and I want some action.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's get on to the full moon, which is quite a full moon.
Do it. Yeah. There's a lot there.
There's a lot there. So that's on February the 12th, Brisbane time, 11:53 p.m. So late at night. So that night, if we have clear skies, she should be looking magnificent. Um, Wearing her crown because it's a full moon in Leo.
Mm.
And that's all about the individual creativity, self-expression, shining, being radiant, um, not hiding. I often say there's nowhere to hide if Leo's prominent.
Yeah. Yeah. And recognizing our self-worth as well.
Yes,
Using our life force and vitality creatively.
that's right. Yeah, and giving expression. It has to be seen and expressed outwardly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and of course, that's opposite the sun, exactly in the sign of Aquarius. So there's that, as we always talk about with the full moons, there's polarity, isn't there? And of course, the sun and the moon are a polarity in themselves anyway. And then the Leo Aquarius polarity, Leo about the individual leadership, stepping forward as the self, and Aquarius all about community and everybody having an equal seat at the table, but Leo's natural function, even if you like, is to sort of step forward as an individual and an expression of that.
Mm.
Yeah.
That Leo energy, it's quite a magnetic energy. And it's like you said, it's like the king and the queen, it's sovereignty as well. So,
Mm.
and a good monarchy is warmly outgoing to their people, they're generous, they're courageous, they're principled, and they encourage, they're encouraging when dealing with others. But, last time we spoke about the new moon in Aquarius, and that was on the outer of society. But this moon in Leo, is smack bang at the center of it. And, in its highest expression, it's all those things that I mentioned and you have, but
Mm.
its shadow is prideful and egotistical, and it can
Mm.
it can burn out too when the
Mm.
energy becomes inflexible and brittle. The sun goes into a supernova and explodes, turning into a diffuse nebula. Like you just, it just dissolves basically. It
Yeah.
doesn't disappear, but it just dissolves and becomes like puffiness that you see out in space. Um, and that sort of brittleness often signals that we need to look at unaddressed issues like insecurities and fears, which is the opposite of courage, which Leo has.
Yeah. Because very often underneath Leo is a lot of self-consciousness and uncertainty and a lack of confidence. So Leo is about building and developing genuine, real confidence in just being true to oneself and expressing that. But that can be quite a process. So this full moon might highlight that for some people
Yeah,
in
yeah,
some way, you know?
yeah. Well, yeah. The sun also, the sun has to shine. That's its job.
Mm,
But if it doesn't, if that Leo energy doesn't, if it can have dark moods and suffer from a sense of ennui, a new word that I've just learned, by the way, which is a specific sort of boredom or listlessness arising out of a lack of occupation or excitement. So it's a different sort of, it goes beyond mere boredom. It sort of stems from monotony and inactivity. And
mm.
when we have that in our life, that's when we just become really listless, which is completely opposite of what Leo is all about.
Exactly. So when a Leo is suffering from some kind of depression, which you wouldn't think it would, but it can do, um, the question is, so where's the joy? What makes you feel joyful? What is it that brings in that light of joy? Because when we're in a place of joy and delight and happiness, which is Leo at its best, then there's this incredible sense of just well, it's very powerful actually, because Leo is also a sign of power. Well, all the fixed signs are, and this is a fixed T square of a full moon. We'll get onto the Uranus part of it in a minute. Um, yeah, it's like standing. It's such an interesting thing, these two signs of Leo and Aquarius, like the individual to shine fully and brightly and with great honor in who and what it is, and also to participate in the group, allowing and supporting and acknowledge everyone else's right to do the same thing. That's the ideal expression of these two signs working together as a beautiful polarity. You know, like, I know who I am, this is me, and I honor and support you to be the same for yourself. And together, what can we achieve? Amazing things. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of, to me, there's a lot of light energy in these two signs. You know, to me, Aquarius carries the light of consciousness itself, and Leo is just the light of the sun.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's a good way to say it.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I think it is a great deal of creative potential with these two signs, and the creativity of Aquarius is through intelligence. You
Mm.
know, sometimes you can watch someone with quite a lot of Aquarius in their chart. You can see their intelligence is just so creative and creates new thought forms and new ideas and new possibilities out of nothing,
Yeah,
seemingly.
basically, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So this is a very high energy full moon.
Yes, there's other things going on with it, as you said before. We haven't even started to talk about Uranus.
Yeah, that's right. So there's absolutely, you know, so I've highlighted the full moon exactly opposite the sun, and then we've got this square, this tight square. There's only 1 degree separation, um, with the planet Uranus in Taurus, which is the ruling planet of Aquarius, and the great disruptor and change agent.
Yeah.
So it's a very dynamic full moon, this one, and the kind of thing where you just have to say, well, anything could happen, and there could be all kinds of surprises and even shocks.
Yeah. I was also thinking that T square to the sun and the moon with Uranus could see things to start to really move in relation to technological breakthroughs and the
Yep.
possibility of that technology too.
Yeah, all kinds of innovation can come with that energy, and because it's held in a T square configuration, um, there can be all kinds of breakthroughs. You use that word, and it's the perfect word for Uranus, you know, breakdowns and breakthroughs. Um, where somebody may suddenly have their own personal breakthrough, you know, where something in their thinking or their consciousness or psyche just cracks open, and suddenly we have some kind of revelation or a moment of, oh, you know, that those aha moments when a light bulb goes off, and suddenly our sense of what we thought to be so has shifted on its axis. It's got that kind of energy, this full moon.
Yeah. I'm just thinking with the, I'm just looking at the chart here. You've got the Sun and Mercury conjunct there very
Yeah.
closely. In a Sun and Mercury in Aquarius opposite Moon in Leo. That sort of brings a dose of, how can I say it? Level-headedness, objectivity, perhaps. Do you think?
Yes, because yeah, absolutely, because Aquarius as an air sign is very much operating on the mind,
Mm.
and Mercury here, um, I don't quite know whether headedness is the word, but it's very mental. And as we know, Aquarius is very detached mentally,
Well, I
you
guess,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, and um really is able to grasp big, broad, abstract concepts really, really easily. And
Yeah.
Leo over the other side is going, yeah, but where's the passion? Where's the joy? That doesn't have any. So to Leo, Aquarius can look really cool, even cold.
Yes, that's true.
And to Aquarius, Leo can look just over emotional and just full of drama. And Aquarius rolls its eyes and goes, oh, for God's sake. Right.
Exactly.
Right. Like drama versus, clear intellectual, abstract thinking.
I guess that's where I was thinking about level-headedness because it
Yeah.
balances out that drama.
Yeah. I understood absolutely where you're going, where you're coming from with that. Yeah. And Mercury, of course, is there. Mercury loves being in Aquarius. So
Mm.
Mercury's on the sun.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of mind energy. And of course, Uranus operates on the mind energy as well. And it's involved in this.
Mm.
So for some people, this could be an amazing time for some really creative intellectual breakthroughs or amazing ideas can just kind of pop into their awareness because it's such a big energy. And again, it's one of those full moons where some people might find it hard to sleep for a couple of nights
Yeah. Yeah.
because it can be quite buzzy.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But we will see a lot happening in the world over that sort of 24-hour period as this alignment, because the moon moves quickly. So while she's in position with that square to Uranus, and there's been a lot of earthquake activity all around the world, like Santorini
No.
is really, yeah, there are some who are suggesting, and I find this a very interesting idea. I don't know if it's true, but I find it a very interesting idea. So I'm just kind of staying tuned into this. That possibly that area in the Aegean Sea was a very key point of Atlantis. And is there something going on there? Because we're in very interesting times, aren't we? Massive shift of paradigm. Um, yeah, something's definitely going on in that area with all these. Apparently, they're just happening like constantly. They're
Yeah.
not massive, but they're noticeable.
Yeah, there was like 1,000 in 4 days at
I
one point.
know.
And they're
And I
just,
think certain areas have been evacuated. And will these seismic tremors then trigger the volcano? I believe there's a volcano there,
yeah,
or certainly in the region.
yeah, it's in a caldera. So that's
Right.
the biggest thing. They're not really putting that out much, but because, if people are leaving Santorini, evacuating.
That's right.
I've got a relative by marriage over there, and she and her husband, they're not on Santorini, but they are on one of the other Greek islands, and they're just monitoring very closely because there's been
Yeah.
talk of like if that whole thing blows,
Yeah.
there's a huge tsunami that just wipes out everything.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister of Greece said if that happens, we're not going to be here. So
Yes. This is potentially huge. And so this is another part of Uranus at work. Uranus energy in terms of, natural forces. These outer planets all represent natural forces, and Uranus is very connected to earthquakes and sometimes to volcanic eruptions. Like there's a massive explosion.
yeah.
And after that, like something has radically shifted and changed. So there's this energy with this full moon of something is shifting on its axis. And in our own reality, perhaps these degrees are very, very like within a degree close to my ascendant descendant axis. So then it becomes very pertinent to the individual. How is this going to show up? What might shift on its axis? And that's not necessarily a dreadful thing. I don't want to have people to be frightened of it. It's just, it could be some amazing breakthrough in your life, in your work, in a relationship, or even spiritually in your awareness and consciousness. Something might just open.
Yeah, well, the other thing with earthquakes is they can sometimes reveal things. They can bring things that eruption can bring things to the surface as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
It feels a bit like watch this space. And we know politically we're in earthquake times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Symbolically.
Symbolically, absolutely. It's a perfect metaphor. And look, on that, I just because I like to do this, there's a few asteroids that showed up that I just found very interesting around this full moon. On the moon itself is at the full moon, and with asteroids we keep the orbs very, very tight, very close, just within a couple of degrees. The asteroid Camelot is on the full moon, and on the sun, exactly on the sun, is Galahad.
Oh, you're joking.
I'm not, but also on the full moon, and this was very interesting to me, like exactly to the minute on the full moon is I never know exactly how to pronounce her name. Amphitrite. She is an ancient Greek goddess of the seas.
Oh, right.
And with all these islands in Greece,
Yeah.
in the ocean. In fact, I pulled out the chart of Greece. I can't remember what I saw, but I went, oh, look at that. There was something, which I could remember. There was something hitting in that chart. So but there's more because right on Uranus is the asteroid China
Mm-hmm.
and the asteroid Gold. And on Venus, and I'm really highlighting Venus, she's going to be very significant in the coming month or two. On the day of the full moon, Venus is at 5 degrees of Aries. We have and again, you cannot make this stuff up as we find ourselves saying frequently lately. You have the asteroid Israel, America, and Moskva, which stands for Moscow,
Yeah.
all really tight right on Venus in Aries, but also the very interesting asteroid Iris, and she is a rainbow messenger. She brings messages. So, if someone says, what does all that mean? I go, well, I don't really know, but it's just fascinating. And sometimes these asteroids are very precise and very specific, and you watch and you see it play out exactly.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Um, yeah. So
Let's,
super interesting.
I'm just going to say, let's just hope that Venusian energy calms that warring,
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly. Because the impulse of Venus is to bring love
Mm.
and peace and harmony to bear in any situation. It's dynamic, it's
Yes.
Aries,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's like a feminine energy coming into the battlefield and saying, hey, fellas, just can we cool it? Can we just sit down for a minute? How about everyone have a nice cold beer, right?
Yeah.
And let's see what we can work out here.
She likes ease without complications.
That's right. But she's also quite fierce in Aries, but
Yeah.
she's coming from a different place.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Watch this space, another one.
Watch the space. Indeed. Indeed. Um,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So a dynamic full moon on the 12th, and it will be building, the day before and even the day after. That energy will still be moving.
Mm.
Yeah. Right. So then there's on the 14th of February,
Yeah.
as we kind of caught our breath a little bit, because the other thing I want to say about that full moon energy, it can feel quite chaotic.
Mm. Yeah.
It's got a kind of chaotic energy. So I think just be aware of that, everyone, and we need to all be aware of that and try not to contribute to the chaos. How do we kind of calm things down a little bit in our own life and experience over those couple of days?
Mm, mm. Yeah.
Um, 14th of February, this will help. Mercury goes into Pisces.
Yes. Yay.
Yay. And all of a sudden, we might find ourselves going, oh, and just like, I think I need to sit down, or you might need to lie down and just take a breather.
Yeah.
Um,
It takes on that a softer tone when to speak from the heart, I think.
yes.
Um, and that's good after all that,
Yes.
going on in Aries. It's very communication just softens, and it's also a great time for creative writing or communication too, isn't it? Through art, dance, music, etc.
It really is. And through, channeling or just being very intuitive with the flow of what wants to come through, even just verbally and speaking more with a just an intuitive, and I'll use the word kinder, like a kinder way of communicating.
I'm thinking poetic expression while you're
Yes.
talking about that, romantic and heartfelt and poetic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And listening to beautiful music that soothes the soul or is inspiring and moving in some way. We are moved by something beautiful.
And that Mercury too, I think it sort of invites us to think with our hearts,
Yeah,
communicate with emotion rather than logic, which we have in
in
Aquarius.
Aquarius, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then soon after, a few days later on the 18th of February, the sun will come in behind and join the Piscean waters. So we're going to see a lot going on in Pisces.
Starting to build
Uh,
up, isn't it?
what's that?
That stellium starting to build up,
It's
isn't
exactly. There's a gathering, and when you get a lot of planets, four or more all gathered quite closely together in a sign, it's called a stellium. I think it means something literally like gathering of stars,
it?
which is
Oh,
quite beautiful.
yeah, yeah.
But you would see them if you could see them all. We can't visibly see Neptune and Saturn's not always easy to see, but you'd see them all there, kind of clustered together.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is a gathering
It is.
in the mystical, mysterious
Oh,
waters of Pisces. Like it's like there's an underwater meeting going on.
true, it's true. I sort of see this gathering that's building up, but just with these two in there in Pisces already, it's like humanity's dream time, where when we dream things into being,
Yes, that's beautiful.
and with Saturn in Pisces until May, that I think it's a really good opportunity to do that, to bring our dreams into this reality.
Yes, I'm envisioning a vision board,
Mm.
a big board, and whether it's the photographs, images, drawings, sketches, whatever, just to exactly that, to bring that dream landscape into some kind of form so that we can see it and imagine and to let the imagination, people often think imagination has no value because it's not real. But
Yeah.
imagination is the source very often of some of the most extraordinary creations.
Yeah. All our dreams, hopes, aspirations all come from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All the art forms come out of that, even in the realm of science, some amazing breakthroughs. As Einstein said, his biggest breakthroughs would often happen when he was not at work
Yeah.
and he was just relaxing, with a cup of tea in the bathtub, and suddenly, boom, it would just come through.
Actually, when we relax, these things form comes from formlessness. It's
Yeah.
manifests. It's an opportunity for the muses to
Yeah,
communicate with us, isn't it?
that's right. And so then our part in that is to be still and quiet for a while so that we can hear, pay attention, receive the subtle messages that want to come through.
Yeah. And just on that note, I want to add, um, I think with my interest in the unusual, the paranormal, etc., I think that we may start to see more things appearing from the unseen realms into our physical reality, such as people seeing ghosts and
Mhm.
entities, non-corporeal beings. Um, might be more talk about after death communications, spontaneous mediumship, people having visions. I think there's opportunity for all that to come to the fore.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like we need to have a certain capacity to see those things that are seemingly in the invisible realm, but are always present.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
that's when the veil's sort of being pulled.
exactly.
Yes.
That's right. So yeah, very, very interesting. So we'll have Mercury and the Sun, and Mercury will go through Pisces, and then later next month it'll go into Aries, and then it will turn retrograde. It gets to the same degree that Venus turned retrograde as well. It's also intriguing.
Mm.
Mercury itself will then go back into the waters of Pisces again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's this whole crossing, this boundary crossing going on
Mm.
throughout this whole period in the next month or two.
Mm.
Um, and then on the 24th,
Mm.
Mars, who's been doing, his long 10-week retrograde journey, he turned back in the sign of Leo, just like these other two, they've gone into a fire sign. Mercury and Venus go into a fire sign, back into water.
Yeah.
Mars got into Leo, fire, turned back, has been in Cancer now for quite some time.
Oh,
And on the 24th, at 17 degrees exactly of Cancer, the waters of Cancer, he will come to a standstill and begin to move forward again.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
And hasn't it been a 10-week too long retrograde?
Yes.
Come on, get on with it.
Yes, in Cancer, a sign that in traditional astrology, it's called in its fall in Cancer, meaning it's not a sign that Mars is most comfortable in.
Mm.
Because Cancer is all about love and nurture and care and intimacy and,
Mars is,
really personal connections. Yeah. And Mars is full of, fight and action and
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it will turn. So that will often feel for us when Mars begins to turn direct again. Like all of a sudden, we feel this kind of pickup in our energy and our sense of, oh, now I feel like I can move forward again and get going.
When I was preparing for today, I was thinking about Mars in Cancer. It's patriotic. It came to me that
Yes,
it's the aspect of patriots and soldiers and people who want to defend the homeland, that sort of thing. And it's about just about protecting home and family, but the bigger picture is about
that's right.
protecting your homeland too. So I thought,
Absolutely, and fighting for that.
yeah, exactly, willing to do that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's right.
So I wondered
Yeah.
whether people who join the military might have that, or there might be more of that.
That's a very interesting piece of research to do. That's right, because I think you probably would see a lot of that actually, particularly if that person's coming from a genuine feeling of wanting to be involved and feels it in that way. I want
Yeah,
to do this for my country.
yeah.
Mm,
So,
yeah, good point.
so with Mars starting to move forward, things that have stalled, basically, we're looking at. But in the Cancer energy, though, the finally gaining momentum, what do you think some of those things might be?
Well, while it's been retrograde in Cancer, I think we've been just collectively, generally, working through a lot of issues, perhaps around family dynamics, your home, whether that includes, partner, children, parents, where you live, your house, having to like process stuff and looking back. I'm speaking also from my own experience. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm seeing it for myself, like recognizing how perhaps a certain issue that's come up during this phase, you go, actually, I remember some years ago, I saw the signs of that
Mm,
back there.
yeah,
And now I'm understanding it more, but we're still having to process through it. When Mars goes direct in Cancer, whatever that issue was going on in your family story, your home, your personal life, it feels like, okay, now we're getting some momentum and we're moving forward and we're moving on. And I get it now. I understand. I know what to do.
yeah.
It sort of feels like that.
Yeah, actually, now that you're speaking, I'm getting it for myself. You never see it for yourself; you see it for other people. But yeah,
Yeah,
last year I told you that I was planning to do some changes to the house, put on a deck, and a few other things, and refurbishments, and actually that's probably going to start in the next couple of weeks.
that's right. That's right. It'll be like, okay, now we're ready to go. So you've done all the kind of planning and thinking it through and figuring out how it's going to work. And maybe you've got, someone to draw up plans and you kind of figured out who you're going to get to do it. So that's really a great use of Mars retrograde. You do all the sort of the pre-planning.
Yeah,
And then when it goes forward, we're like, now we can go.
yeah,
It's like the green light is on now.
yes, yes, yes.
I love that. That's great. So these are just all great examples, and so we can, everyone can sort of think about that in their own
Yeah,
life. But Mars is a very high energy planet and it can stir stuff up.
yeah,
Um, and it can also bring up conflict. He's very much about that. So in some cases there might have been conflict, but I think he's very good at cutting through stuff. Like, come on, let's cut through this and get to what we need to know or see or what we need to make a decision about. And when it goes direct, it feels like, okay, now we're ready to go. Now I know what I have to do.
yeah, yeah. I'm just thinking of a couple of people I know who've sort of been working with, well, is it to do with the family or is it about what I want to do, that sort of thing? And they're not actually making a change, just working through it,
That's right.
sort of thing. Yeah.
And that will depend a lot individually on where Cancer sits in your chart, what house it's in for those people who know their chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
This will have been playing out in that area of their life, but in that very personal way. It's very personal in Cancer.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Um, okay, so and then on the 25th, the following day, there'll be a conjunction of Mercury with Saturn in Pisces. So again, it's what you were saying before about, while Saturn's in Pisces, how do we bring the dream, the imagination, what we're envisaging as a possibility that has not yet taken form? How could we imagine that taking form and taking shape and giving it some real focus instead of just letting it sort of float around here in the never, never somewhere? Let's bring it in. That's very Saturn, isn't it? Bring it in and get some clarity and focus on it and consider it as a real possibility, not just kind of drifting around in these other realms, but bring it here.
Yeah.
20 degrees of Pisces.
When I was looking at that, I'm going to go off on my other realm again. I suddenly had this thought of Edgar Casey, the sleeping prophet,
Yeah,
and oh, no, it was a mystic, really. And in that supposedly sleep state, but in an altered state of consciousness,
yeah.
he could discuss history and geology and healing and philosophy and metaphysics. I mean, God, how Mercury in Pisces is that?
That's right.
You know,
And his wife would just kind of write it all down because he wasn't in the state to do that. But that's right. And all this amazing wisdom and knowledge would just come through him.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mm. Very Pisces, a lot of Pisces in his chart.
I
Yeah,
guess that's giving form to the formless, isn't it? Or
that's right.
clarity to the nebulous.
That's right. Which can also show up in someone creating beautiful music or art, So the muse is very present and open, but it's bringing something into form.
Yeah, and Mercury sort of drifts into the unconscious when in Pisces, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and then that leads us, of course, to the new moon, which will be in Pisces.
Oh, Pisces.
So, like, I love it sometimes just keeping it really basic. So, Pisces is literally the sea and the ocean. So, even just going to the sea and spending some time by the sea and getting into the ocean or just walking in the water, listening to the seagulls, looking out to the horizon, looking for whales,
I,
immersing ourselves in what's that?
I said she's off.
She's off, that's right. But really using that energy because water is a very healing, powerful element, and all the elements are healing in different ways. But water is a cleansing, healing element, and water holds memory. That's the other thing about all of this. Saturn is a karmic planet in many ways. Water holds memory. And one of the things I feel very strongly we're all going to be experiencing, and I'm noticing this, psychic channels opening more and more, memories
Mm.
of whether it's childhood, but of previous times, glimpses of memory, or somebody saying something to us about, oh, I can see you were once in da 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 da.
Yeah,
And it opens something, and something in you knows that's true.
yeah,
I think that's a lot of because we are shifting, consciousness is just shifting big
yeah,
time and
yeah.
elevating. I think that's a part of what's going to be going on with all these planets going through Pisces and out and back again.
That's already started with me.
Yeah,
And I'm waking up with something in my mind and I'm going, why on earth am I thinking that now? That was like ages ago. But
yeah,
also, I'm also having lucid dreams. So I've had probably up till now about, I can count on my hand how many lucid dreams I've had in my life. But lately, in the last couple of weeks, I'm already feeling it. I've,
right.
I've had that many on one hand, probably 4 or 5 lucid dreams, and I'm aware of that I'm dreaming and that I'm in my own dream. And I'm going, wow, this is so cool. But
Yeah.
fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Yes, and I just do really feel, and it's Neptune conjunct the North Node in Pisces, these planets in Pisces.
Yeah,
Venus and Mercury through March will retrograde back into Pisces,
yeah.
and they're crossing over this really powerful point, of Pisces, Aries, Pisces, Aries. It's like things are shifting and opening and changing. And as many astrologers have said, and I wholeheartedly agree, 2025 is probably the most important year in this decade.
Mm,
And I would suggest that by this time next year, we're all going to be feeling like, wow,
yeah, yeah.
things are going to feel and look very different in our personal reality, but also collectively.
Yeah. So that, excuse me, that next moon, there's going to be 6 planets in Pisces. Like, wow.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed.
We
That's
will
right.
need our water wings.
That's right. So drink lots of beautiful, clean, clear water. So issues around water and municipal water supplies all over the world. Our water's been poisoned. The
Mm,
seas and the oceans, but also municipal water supplies are just, pretty toxic. So all these kinds of issues will arise as
I'm
well.
thinking tsunamis as well.
That's right.
Um, all sorts of things happening on the ocean, in the ocean, beneath
Mhm.
the ocean,
Yeah,
everything. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah. And you know, as the mystics talk about oceanic consciousness
Yeah.
represented by Pisces, the sign through which we can get a glimpse of the truth that ultimately, at the deepest place, there is only oneness. Everything is one,
Mm.
you know, and everything is interconnected. And we know that, but to have moments when we literally experience that is something else.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so when something happens, everything is impacted by it. You know, it's all one huge field. So yes, very. And the other thing that's really important to acknowledge is overwhelm. This can all feel very overwhelming and
Mm.
very exhausting sometimes.
Mm.
And we'll have days when we feel like, you know, our energy's up, and other days when we just feel like we're almost in collapse, you know,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of energy moving in in the psychic fields, just in so many levels. It
I,
is a lot.
I think too, and I meant to say this earlier, but when we feel overwhelmed, we tend to reach for things that can be addictive,
Yeah.
like alcohol, chocolate,
Yep.
shopping,
Yeah.
or other, heavy drugs, all those sorts of things, just so that we can cope with
That's right.
things. We don't feel like we're drowning. We just want to escape, to
Yeah.
escape everything. So I think, people with addictive type personalities might have to work a bit harder to
Yes.
be aware of that and stop that. Um, but and also I meant to bring up the word martyrdom too,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yep.
Pisces is very much about sacrificing the one for the whole or for the many.
Yes.
So we have to watch that we don't fall into that personally too in our own lives, that we're not willing to sacrifice ourselves for others when actually they may not deserve it.
Or really need it even.
Yes, exactly.
And that's right, to a point where we're just completely wiping ourselves out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Don't be a doormat. Just, and
Yeah,
this is the thing, one of the things with Pisces, they have to put the boundaries up.
that's
They
right.
just have to say no more, withdraw. That's it. That's your space. I'm over here.
That's
A bit
right.
hard, can be a bit hard for any water sign because it's wishy-washy.
Well, because it feels because it's feeling compassion for all this the suffering and people in need,
Yeah.
and its nature, particularly in Pisces, like the Pisces Virgo axis is about being of service.
Mm.
So there's this line between like being overly of service and feeling compassion and wanting to help everybody, but you pull yourself under and go under yourself and get sick, or you just collapse with exhaustion.
That's right.
So it's finding a way, and that's where Saturn has been helping going through Pisces these last couple of years, you know, to help bring more clarity to that
Yeah.
and to strengthen some of these boundaries that Pisces has a lot of difficulty with, because everything is open in Pisces, it's wide open.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, yeah.
Very, very
And,
interesting.
and and then in Aries we get to say, well, it's just all about what I want, and I'm going to just go and do exactly what I want. So there's always this counterbalance, you know, from sign to sign to sign to sign, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Just remaining aware of all those. That's a lot to digest, actually, when I think about it. Come on, Mercury, start processing that stuff in my head.
Yeah, it is a lot. It's all quite complex. The first 4 months or so of 2025, there's a lot of moving parts.
It's just been, well, weird and wonderful at the same time.
Exactly. I agree. I
Yeah.
agree. Like I find myself saying, oh my God, I just would like someone to hit the pause button. And then I stop and reflect, and it's not like anything dreadful is happening.
Mm.
It's just a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a lot.
Anyway, well, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for all that information. Yes, I will go away and percolate on that.
Go and a cup of tea and a nice lie down.
I will. But anyway, if anyone enjoyed that and want to hear more about what's happening next uh, moon cycle, then hit the subscribe button. Please remember to like if you enjoyed this. And if you feel so can't even speak now. If you feel so inclined, share with other people who might be interested too. So thank you once again, Babula.
You're welcome, Cheryl. It's
And
fun.
we will see you all again in another 2 weeks to talk about the next lunar cycle. So until then, be well.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.